All right, hey, it's Rio, and it is week 2 in CIT85, and I'm doing the second recording of this video because the first time, if you saw in the description before, I had people come in and just threw me off, so I'd rather be clear. So I'm in here today to hopefully be more clear on the week 2, and let's talk about some class topics, okay? So there's some topics I want to chat about today. And then I'll get into the work that you need to do. Okay, so class chat, attendance, required replies, and post-viewable. These are the topics we'll talk about related to the class, and then we'll look at the hands-on and the current topic works. All right, so first, in our class, right, so in our setup, one thing I use is I use a Google Hangout, and a couple of you, I have 4 of you on here now. So all you have to do in this case is email me your Gmail password and then ask to be placed onto class chat. And what's great about that is that you'll have access not only to me if I'm available, but to also your classmates, because often somebody else can probably answer the questions quicker, often depending on what time it is during the day, because I'm not up late at night. So again, I think I mentioned this the first time, but email me if you want to get on class chat. And if you're emailing me questions directly, you're going to hear me say, get on the class chat, so you do that, okay? All right, so the other thing about this that I wanted to chat about, I always have to remind myself, oh yeah, attendance, right? So on Monday, starting on Monday, in our class, we will have a new item called attendance. As a matter of fact, if you look in calendar, that's where I should have went. In calendar, what you will see is that there'll be an item it'll call week 2 attendance. Now I'm going to make it available on Monday around 8 and have it available through Friday. So it will only show as due here. It'll be available the entire week. All you have to do in this case is just hit a reply, and I'll have something short in there, probably some kind of announcement just to keep you kind of in touch with what's going on. But that is just because of the requirement I have for the campus. So get this done, right? So when I look at, students being inactive, I typically look at, are they doing the work and are they doing attendance? And if neither of those are true, then you get flagged in my, are they really still participating, or have they decided to move on? Okay. All right. So the other really important topic is required replies. So I've made, and I need to be as clear as possible on this, is that all the discussion boards related to our course, and there are 2, right? So when you look at the course, each week there are 2 discussion boards. There is and hopefully, as we all are getting used to this, right? So there's the hands-on, and then there's the current topics. So just know that these 2 require you to do replies, okay? So you do need to do 2 replies to your fellow students, and they need to be substantive. They don't need to just be, oh yeah, that's cool, or oh hey, I learned something. At least 75 words in there, something that shows that you read what somebody wrote and you're replying substantively to it, okay? So the other thing about this is I've made these discussion boards due on Monday night, and one of the things in the past I've had to do, and I'm hoping that I don't have to this time, so we'll see, and hopefully you all get this concept, is that if you're waiting until Monday to do your main post, then other students who want to work ahead won't have that opportunity to do that. So what I really say is try to work ahead whenever possible, especially on the discussion boards. Posting your post will help other folks get theirs done before the due date, because many folks like to work ahead. They like to have a little more time to think about it, or they just like to they don't like to wait till the last minute. So do yourself, let's be a good class community, let's put it this way, and post early. Don't wait until the due date to do all these. If I see many folks doing this, then I'll have to change the due dates around and possibly make these due a little earlier in the week, and I don't want to do that, but if I do have to, I will. Okay? So post-viewable. So one of the things that in this new Canvas course setup that I was able to set up, and I want your feedback here actually, and you can give me your feedback either directly or on class chat or somewhere, is that you can't see other people's posts until you post something, okay? So I will see all of them, but until you get this done, you won't see other folks post. So just know that if you're wondering who's done it, you won't see it until that's true. So the reason I think Canvas did this is that oftentimes what we see is on discussion boards, somebody looks at what somebody else wrote and has written and just paraphrases it. Often not the best idea. Okay, so this helps alleviate that, but I also don't know if it doesn't create some downsides as well. So I'm interested in your feedback about that. Okay, so those are the big class topics that I wanted to cover. The other thing I have included in the syllabus is I've included my schedule so that you can know when to find me. Here's my office hours on Monday, and on Tuesday and Thursday my office hour is actually in a classroom. I'm taking a class myself, but you're more than welcome to come in and work with me. And if we find that based on the lecture that's happening in that room, if we need to move somewhere else, we can do that. So just know that these are my office hours. On Tuesday, Thursday, I'm in class, and on Wednesday, I'm actually in class, but my office hour happens before that class. So, and Friday I have a virtual office hour, and so what that means is I'm virtually available. And typically I'm virtually available more often than just that time, but I have to set a particular time, okay? So the other thing I did in here was that I put a link to the lynda.com login. A couple of you, or at least one of you I know, had an issue getting into the lynda.com with their library card. So if you're running into any issues with that, it's really the Fresno County Library you have to work with, because I don't control any of that. That's really their thing. So I was able to get in no problem and do this, but you have to use, and that's why I provided that link. You do, lagging a little bit. You do need to go in there with this link right here, okay? All right. And by the way, and now that I'm looking here, you do see that attendance over here is in the grade, but it's actually a 0%. The reason I put it in there is because I can actually, if you miss a week and I put 1, and that's what you will see on attendance, there'll be a 0 if you were present and a 1 if you were absent. And the reason I do that is so that I can just total up the number of absences you have. It's just very easy for me to do. Okay, I talked about that. I talked about grades. I think I've talked about all the stuff related to the course that I needed to. And we're good on time. Okay, so now let's actually talk about the work for next week. There's two, okay, so actually here is the other thing I wanted to talk about. So the lynda.com stuff, I went through the first lecture that you're going to watch, which is the Introduction to Web Technologies, and I think it's great. I think it's on par with what I would expect, a good introduction for students that haven't come in with a background. So if you have come in with a background, here's what I'd like to say to you. You know, if you want to look ahead, and again, here's the requirement, if you want to look ahead and say, hey, that's something I feel like I really know, and there's something else I'd like to learn related to that, maybe more advanced, or maybe a little different tangent of that topic, okay? So here's what you need to do. You need to contact me a week ahead of time and say, hey, here's the Lynda course I'd like to substitute this week, because some of you come in with a bit more experience than others, right? So just know that that's an option, but only if you contact me early. You can't contact me right before the due date and say, because I want to be able to go look at that course and say, yeah, I feel like that's relevant enough, okay? All right, so also I'm changing already the order of the next item, because after I watched the first one, I realized the second one that I had looked at, really, it's a duplicate of information. So I think I'm going to go ahead and move on to HTML, and then I'm going to move on to GitHub, just because I think that would be of more benefit to do that. Okay, so just know that I am looking at these things and giving them thought. So in this case, besides the lynda.com lecture, right, again, you know, this is the Google Doc concept. This is the same we did with the About 82. So you're still using the same Google Doc. There's no difference there. I want all of the notes will end up on one document with the most current notes at the top, okay? And I believe I said that, but I think it's worth repeating, okay? So let me just say, let me see if I have one here. I do. So here's an example of that, right? So here is, right, your 82. And I think I really like these, each new video to be in a title. And then within the title, you would then have headings, right? So in here, yeah, bullets if you want. Well, they work great here. In Blackboard, they didn't. Not that we're using Blackboard, but still, right? So again, most current at the top, that way we end up with one document, and once you share it with me, and by the way, when you share it, make sure, hit down here, make sure you give me editability, okay? So once you do that, then all you have to do is copy and paste this link, although again, you could use a shortener if you wanted, that'd be fine, okay? So that's the lecture for this week. The two topics, the hands-on topic, I'll spend a little time here, and it's really talking about understanding and mapping out your connection to the internet, right? So I've given here a link, and it didn't show up great, to exercise I've done in the past, and you'll see me do this sometimes, so try, and I tell you that this is from a previous class, right? So coming in, I would expect students to have enough knowledge to understand their network connections from an IP address perspective. So if you're setting at home, you have a router, you have a private IP, and then you have a public IP. If you're on your cell phone, you have a public IP, most likely, depending on how you've done that. If you're on campus, you have a private IP and a public IP. So what I want you to do is map out in a typical day what your network connections look like. And what I've done here is I've shown you, I'll show you two ways I've done it. So here's a way I've used a website called MindMister that was really fun, right? So I mapped out kind of this concept here, and then on each of these I provided a link to an external document, and you'll need to do this. So in this case, I've provided the IP number based on the computer. Now, I will say this, right? So this is a Mac IP listing, and you know, you want to think about, and this is actually an old one, so I'm not worried about sharing it, but you do want to think about, you know, fuzzing these out, right? So that you probably only show the first two digits of an IP. And hopefully you also know that there's two kinds of IP anymore, right? So there's the public IPs, I'm sorry, there's the IP6 and IP4, and you can give me either number there, right? So the other way you could do this is actually with Google Docs. And Google Docs provides this thing called drawing. And so what I did is I just went in and I did some images here. And so like, here's the internet, here's my router, and this then would be a link to another print screen that would be your public IP and then your private IP. And again, you know, learn how to either cut the last, there's octaves, right? So if IP4, the last two octaves, IP6, you can choose however many octaves. And really it's about, you know, I want you to be able to know how to gather the information. I want you to know how to put together easy image here. And by the way, you'd want to connect these, right? So there's easy lines that you could do here. You could do line selections, right? So I could easily do an elbow connector here. There we go, right? And then we'd have some kind of just map showing us your typical connections that you have. All right, so we're almost done with the time here. So the last item you'll have, right, is actually one that talks about, this is a current topic, right? So this is the idea of the difference between web apps and websites. And this article is a little old. And by the way, if you have a better article you'd like to give me for this, I'm totally open to that. But it's the difference between these two. So do some research and think about maybe a web app or a website that you would need to create or would want to create, okay? So that's the work for this week. I think now I've covered what I wanted to for this week. Keep on track, get on the chat, let us know when you need help, don't get behind. Do know, and I will put this in the syllabus, if you submit work late, there's a 25% removal of points on that item. So don't let that happen to you if you can help it, okay? All right, talk to you later.